Let's begin with this developing story that there is heavy presence of tight security in and around the Federal High Court complex sitting at Court Road in Kano as the hearing on Emirate tussle begins. And we'll keep our eyes on the hearing as it unfolds. Moving on now. We understand from a document that has gone viral that the federal government is planning a 6-month suspension of import duties on essential items such as staple foods and drugs and other items for an initial period of 6 months as a measure to curb inflation. This was contained in an executive order expected to be issued by the president titled Inflation Reduction and Price Stability Fiscal Policy Measures, Order 2024. The document also includes plans to waive levies on fertilizer, poultry feed, flour, and also grains. The executive order will mandate the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Nigeria to devise a plan for offering low-interest loans to the agriculture, pharmaceutical, and manufacturing sectors. Meanwhile, the presidency wants the media and Nigerians to disregard the genuineness of the fiscal policy document in circulation. According to the coordinating minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, the 65-page draft document titled Accelerated Subsidization, Stabilisation and Advancement Plan, which contains suggestions on how to improve the Nigerian economy, was received by President Tinubu on Tuesday. He urged the public and the media to disregard the two documents, saying none is an approved official document of the federal government of Nigeria. They are all policy proposals still subject to review at the highest level of government. Africa is deemed to be a consumption-dependent continent, and research further proves that 1 in 5, that's 20% of the world's consumers, will live in Africa in the coming decade. Furthermore, the largest African economy, Nigeria, has a trade deficit of 7.37 trillion naira in 2020, with total imports standing at 5.92 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2020, which was an increase of only about 10% compared to the third quarter of the same year. Imports accounted for 65% of total trade, while exports accounted for a measly 35%, as revealed by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. These data are a pointer to the fact that Nigeria is mostly import dependent, which begs the question, how does the country make a transition from consumption to production? How does it leverage the array of raw materials and natural resources within its borders for increased production? To respond to these questions that are begging for answers, I'm joined by financial expert Oyeyinka Oyeka. Oyeyinka, you're welcome. Good morning to you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so Oyeyinka, good afternoon rather, I've been corrected. Now, given Nigeria's abundant raw materials and natural resources, and what strategies can be implemented to maximize domestic production and reduce reliance on imports?
All right, first things first, I think the government has taken a very hard first step, which is to devalue the local currency. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it's a hard first step. Secondly, government needs to encourage a lot of exportation of our goods into the international space. Mind you, we run an open economy, so we have to compete in the international space. So areas of manufacturing, areas of services. And let me talk a little bit about services. Services in terms of technology, we need to do a lot more. Software as a service, IT, business process management, and all those kind of things. A lot has to be done to drive a lot of exports as a service from the country. I mean, we have a very huge teeming youth population that can be taught a lot of tech skills for exports. Thirdly, we need to also do a lot in our steel. And I can also add that our mineral resources could also be emphasized by the government to ensure that we have some form of, tilting of the balance of trade. I must also add, finally, that agriculture and the agricultural value chain has to be focused on for export. I'll hold it at that. Back to you.
So you speak about very many places or instances where Nigeria could improve. You talk about agriculture, you talk about steel, minerals, and all of that. You also touched on the point where service could also be an export. Now you're referring to the people, the population. But what policies can actually make this possible? What policies can help businesses make services from Nigeria an export commodity?
Okay, thank you for that question as well. We have to look inward and not policy right now. I think the frameworks are already in place. We have bodies like the Standard Organization of Nigeria, we have NAFDAC, we have a ministry that is focused on technology and youth economy as of this point in time. So we just need to strengthen all those MDAs that is targeted towards export and ensure that we do a lot of sensitization also in-house. When I say in-house, in-country, to foster and deepen export outside the country. So we also have to look at areas um, of, of the export points, our ports, NACO, it is like that. Back to you. Thank you.
Okay, then, so let's talk about foreign investment. We're not doing well when it comes to actually helping ourselves with the resources that we have and also transporting it across the country. However, we are still yet faced with the issue of also attracting foreign investment. What can we do as a country, first for itself, to be able to make sure that these sectors are in place and also they look attractive to foreign investors?
All right. Three key areas we need to look at. First is security. We need to change the narrative of security outside the country. And we need to do a lot more and be seen to be doing a lot in curbing security challenges in the country. Secondly, we need to look at power. I'm very glad that the power sector is now also on the concurrent list by the government. So that means that subnationals can offer power infrastructure in their states. So a lot needs to be done at that point in time. State governments need to look at manufacturing clusters at the major level, at the medium level, and at the micro level, and partner with GENCOs to provide powers for them. That would ordinarily attract a lot of foreign direct investors into the country. We also need to look at the areas of transportation. We have spoken ab initio about our rail network, but we also need to improve our road networks from the north to the south and vice versa, and especially to the points of export across the country. Then we also need to, loosening the bureaucracies of running business in this country. Back to you. Thank you very much.
Do we have any case studies or any models that we can actually take sample from as Nigeria to perhaps maybe emulate whatever they did to transition from consumption to a production-based economy?
Thank you for that question. That's a naughty question. I don't mean naughty. I mean naughty. So it could be a blend between the Chinese model and the Indian model. Of course, we have to adapt and adopt. We don't have to take everything hook, line, and sinker. And first is that we can't take everything 100% because it will be draconian. Like I said, also have an issue. We run an open economy. So what we could do is to moderate, import and export in the country. Look at areas where we could encourage local producers to export more out of the country. Like I said, also have an issue. Look at entities like NUPRC. Look at entities like the NPA and NACO and other entities that facilitate export in the country, and unbundle it to look at ways to reduce bureaucracies in these sectors to encourage exportation. Now, we have to be competitive. I personally do not really support banning importation of some goods to encourage local production. I support encouraging the local production to be more competitive in the international space. So while people are importing things into the country, we are exporting, at a level that on a net scale will be doing better. Thank you.
Much, thank you. We appreciate you being with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Now, 16 members of the United States House of Representatives have petitioned President Joe Biden, urging him to intervene as they demand the return of detained Binance executive Tigran Gambaryan to the United States from Nigeria. He was arrested by the federal government in February. Gambaryan was initially held at a guest house before formal charges were brought against him and Binance in an Abuja High Court in April. And he was accused alongside the company of charges including non-payment of value-added tax and corporate income tax and complicity in aiding customers to evade taxes through its platform. The lawmakers accuse the government of Nigeria of taking Kembarian hostage and thus needs his government's help to be freed. The Coalition of Civil Society Organizations for Good Governance has urged President Bola Tinubu to disregard allegations of financial misconduct and embezzlement under the current leadership of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission. The civil society group had termed the allegations against the leadership of the commission as baseless and a deliberate act to undermine public distrust. They have now urged other stakeholders in the oil and gas sector to unite to protect the integrity of the reforms with the NUPRC and shun distractions that can undermine the rights of host communities.
We have observed with dismay the emergence of baseless and malicious campaign of calumny against the NUPRC and its leadership. Those campaigns of calumny are perpetrated by faceless individuals who falsely claim to represent civil society. We urge President Bola Tinubu to disregard those campaigns of calumny. The campaign of calumny under consideration appears more of abuse of privilege, a clear act of misdirection and misinformation, deliberate acts and action to undermine public distrust. The element of professionalism, whereas the Freedom of Information Act is there to seek information and track public funds, the actors never labor to tap on the benefits of the Freedom of Information Act, a national law. In the same manner, the Petroleum Industrial Act that asks citizens host community part of engagement was also not a buy-in for the restless actors. We urge President Bola Tinubu to see through the deceitful tactics of those faceless campaigners of calumny and continue to support the leadership that is steering Nigeria oil and gas towards greater transparency.
Now, no fewer than 25 suspected killers of Alex Timileyin, a 200-level engineering student at Ajayi Crowther University who was clubbed to death by his colleagues on May 24, 2023 over a claim that he stole a mobile phone, were arraigned on Wednesday before the chief magistrate in Oyo State. The students, aged between 18 and 34, have been remanded in prison until July 8, pending trial. Timileyin was allegedly beaten on May 24 until he passed away inside a hostel known as Shepherd Inn on the school premises by the suspects. The deceased was also said to have had his hair forcefully shaved by his assailants after he was reportedly caught with the stolen mobile phone. Following the incident, the management announced the expulsion of some of the students believed to have taken part in the crime and subsequently handed them over to the police in the state for prosecution. For customers of the now defunct Heritage Bank, there is no cause for alarm over deposited funds. The Nigeria Deposit Assurance, or the Insurance Corporation, has assured bank customers that their money is safe. The corporation gave the assurance in the nation's capital, Abuja, while promising that it is ready to commence payments to customers of the liquidated bank. News Central's Joshua Emirate attended the briefing and now brings us this report.
Customers of the liquidated Heritage Bank can now breathe a sigh of relief following the recent announcement by the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation. At a press briefing in the nation's capital, Abuja, the corporation announced there is no cause for alarm as it is ready to refund customers their savings within the next 1 week.
Actually, the process is highly intense, and probably that is why the Act contemplated that we should pay within 30 days. But we are going to pay within 1 week, less than 1 week. For BVN, we can actually use it to scan the system and say, okay, you have an account in Bank X. So you really don't need to come because the BVN has only a biometrics to say that you are the one. And if that account is linked to that BVN and another account, we have no doubt that you are the same person. So that's why we say you don't need to go through that hassle to come forward for verification. But for customers who have only account with Heritage, they really need to come forward to tell us that, okay, this is where you are going to pay my insured amount so that we can pay it. That is the essence of that.
The managing director says that insured depositors of the bank will, however, receive top priority.
The most important thing is to make sure that depositors do not lose their money. You understand? So what's within the creditors, they don't lose their money. You understand? That is why we need to now be able to pursue to make sure that we recover and we pay all the claimants, starting with depositors and eventually creditors and even the shareholders if they're surplus.
The managing director also urged the judiciary to expedite the cases related to the bank's liquidation, saying the cooperation is ready to resolve all issues causing uncertainties. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
To discuss this further, we are being joined by Chief Economist of Streetnomics, Gospel Obili. Gospel, good afternoon. Thanks for joining.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Now, Gospel, what are the potential implications of Heritage Bank's liquidation on Nigeria's financial stability? How can the NDIC's prompt payment of issued sums help mitigate these effects?
Well, first and foremost is the fact that, there's been a rising outlook by the monetary leaders or policy leaders in the context of the central bank governor that more controls, risk assessment, mitigation, and all that will be introduced to ensure that the sector is healthier, than the last financial year. And it's all in a bid to ensure that more organizations or banks or financial and non-financial institutions within the sector, can really, really stand strong in terms of the uncertainties we are faced with right now. So the Heritage news coming up in terms of its liquidation and all that, it's not really a shock to me. However, it's also, I see it as a move in the positive direction. The downside to the risk is as well the concerns of shareholders' funds, within the bank. Again, calls for one or two narratives here that Nigerians and stakeholders within organizations need to do their proper due diligence in terms of investing in businesses that are much more sustainable. But second is the fact that I figure that all of the risk assessment would have been done. However, NDIC can only cover for the risk it can cover for, under its laws and regulatory practices. So it's likely be some little bit of, reshuffling here and there. It may be a very, very sensitive closure, as the case may be. But I believe that it's for the good of the sector more broadly, and also a call for awareness in terms of more Nigerians and stakeholders and shareholders need to do the proper due diligence before investing.
Okay, Gospel, I don't know if you heard, but the NDIC told that 99.9% of depositors had less than 5 million naira inside of their accounts. That's a bit here and there, but what's this saying about the banking system in Nigeria and people's habits? And, perhaps maybe what can Nigerians or Nigerian establishments do using this opportunity?
Well, I'm not so surprised to hear that because, to a very large extent, if you also think about what's happening outside, people are spending more. There is more cash in the economy, thus inflation. Not because you just have cash in the economy, but you have more. There's an increased cost to living, and once there's an increased cost to living, what it means that people will be spending more money to get by on a daily basis. So technically, there'll be more cash in the space, and that's to say that there will be. That would erode savings, to a large extent, savings will be eroded. And you also think about Heritage Bank as an institution, with all sense of due respect. I mean, it hasn't really been a strong reputational bank, a bank of reputation in the previous years. So I don't expect so much. I don't expect Nigerians in that order to entrust so much in the hands of the bank. As such reasons why we have that statistics at 90% plus, have less than 5 million with the bank and all that. So, so if you look at it from those two angles, sort of justifies itself. If the narrative may be slightly different for a First Bank or a Guarantee or an Access Bank, but then again, the narrative is also a show that you don't have so much money in Nigerian banks as you think, by the majority of Nigerians, So it may be a pointer to a trend or a pattern that currently exists, but definitely shows that there was not so much of brand reputational trust for Heritage Bank to start with. If you look at 10 Nigerians now, you ask them, do you have accounts with Heritage Bank? You'll barely find one or two or up to three who have accounts with Heritage Bank.
So, Gospel, do you think that the central bank was a bit too hasty in its revocation of the license from Heritage Bank, especially at a time when they were experiencing these troubles?
I don't think it's the central bank was hasty or has been hasty. I mean, for some want of words, I did a banking outlook strategy session for an institution some couple of years ago, and I was profiling some very risky banks to engage with, in the sector, and Heritage Bank was one of the ones I profiled, and I provided them on some key thematics. When you want to look at the strength of the brand, the quality of the institution, how engaging the leaders are in terms of the frontier ability to sort of take the bank to the whole new level. That banks have, that Heritage Bank itself has had lots of changes, in terms of leadership, in terms of capacity. They've just been a lot of instability with the bank itself. So I think, I don't think the central bank made any rush decision. I think the decision to sort of liquidate the bank has been made in good faith of protecting the strength of the financial sector, which again proves to us that lots of cleanup needs to be done within the sector. There are many other banks like Heritage Bank that I don't want to use the word needs to be liquidated now, but lots of due diligence and checks need to be done to ensure that they are not causing further harm or leakage to the growth of the financial sector.
About your research and also noting Heritage Bank as one of the struggling banks, how many popular banks would you say, and I mean real popular banks that everyday Nigerians bank with, are undergoing the same turmoil as Heritage Bank currently?
Well, yeah, quite frankly, there are a couple of tier one. I mean, I don't mention it on the call, but there are a couple of tier one, even tier two banks that are really at same level of risk. I mean, to a large extent, many banks have had to look at diverse models to just ensure that it keeps its liquidity position going. You want to think of the holding position. You want to think of establishing corporate engagements in diverse sectors that probably have higher returns. You want to think of banks who are constantly reworking leadership to ensure they are the cutting edge of growth, innovation, and as such liquidation. As such solvency, as the case may be. So the catch is that Nigerians themselves and even the central bank have to do more closer due diligence. Many of our Nigerian banks are not really healthy, and it's to a large extent also being seen in how they conduct operations, and also taking consideration that the Nigerian economy itself have not been healthy. So because the monetary system or the financial environment itself still a function of the quality of growth in the local economy, safe to say. So when you're struggling with growth, I know you would, some may say, oh, Nigeria has not really had a negative growth as it's, but we've had very slow growth in recent times, and that slow growth have been mixed with high cost of living, high cost of doing business. So again, if you wrap it up together, you see that it will definitely impact on the financial sector, which also have been at risk of liquidation in the most recent years. So it calls for a cleanup of the sector, and again with the bank recapitalization scheme, you would also get to see that once it goes fully into full-fledged execution, many more Nigerian banks will be mopped up in the name of M&As, and I won't be surprised to see a couple of tier one and tier two in the space as well.
Well, thank you very much, Gospel. That was a lot of answer for a very short question, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Moving on now, electoral stakeholders in Nigeria have called for a far-reaching reform in the nation's electoral process to improve credibility of future polls. This was during a session organized by the Electoral Hub in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, where stakeholders made far-reaching recommendations to improve the nation's electoral process. Amadin Uyi reports.
Despite already spending 25 years of uninterrupted democracy, political experts say Nigerians are still ignorant of the political process and the results collation process after elections.
People do not, there are so many politicians and political parties who do not even know that for you to be declared as a president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that you must score majority of lawful votes cast and also get the geographical spread. And that if nobody gets that geographical spread, another election will be conducted with the same threshold. So I think that there's lack of knowledge in terms of some of the things we do.
At this session organized by the Electoral Hub in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, political stakeholders in Nigeria say there is still so much to be achieved to grow the nation's democracy. The Inter-Party Advisory Council, a coalition of several political parties in the country, say Nigerians must be encouraged to participate in the process. They also used the opportunity to advocate for local government autonomy.
Citizens should be encouraged to actively participate in grassroots politics that guarantees free, fair, and credible local government elections. It is in view of this that IPAC also demands for local government autonomy. INEC must be strengthened to discharge its statutory duties and be truly independent to conduct credible elections.
Other stakeholders present gave far-reaching recommendations to officials of Nigeria's electoral body present, saying the nation's political process is in dire need of reforms at all levels.
We must provide exemplary, transparent, and credible leadership in political party administration and call elected public officers to order if they deviate from the manifesto of their respective party. It is time to sanitize our political process.
Internal party democracy has been the bane of our democracy because it is for sure that our political parties have not gotten it right, and we continue to have inter-party squabbles within our political parties, most especially within the forefront political parties.
The Electoral Hub also unveiled a book on election management in the country aimed at deepening Nigeria's electoral process. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Now the news continues in East Africa, where a paramilitary attack on a central Sudan village has killed up to 100 people. This was disclosed by a local pro-democracy activist committee on Thursday. The Madani Resistance Committee said the Rapid Support Force, RSF, which have been at war with the regular army since April 2023, attacked the village of Wad al-Nura in Al Jazeera state in 2 waves with heavy artillery on Wednesday. They said the feared paramilitaries invaded the village, causing widespread displacement and dozens of casualties. In a little over a year, the war has killed tens of thousands of people, including up to 15,000 in a single West Darfur town. The war's overall death toll, however, remains unclear, with some estimates of up to 150,000, according to U.S. Special Envoy for Sudan, Tom Perriello. Now, the African National Congress, the ANC, is holding its crucial Special National Executive Committee meeting in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg, this morning to discuss various options to constitute a government within the next 2 weeks. For the first time in 30 years, the ANC has failed to obtain majority votes to form a new government, with their votes falling to just over 40% nationally, with voters' turnout at just 58.61%. On Wednesday, ANC spokesperson Maglengi Bengu said the ANC is looking at the idea of forming a government of unity or a minority government. Meanwhile, some party members say the ANC Democratic Alliance marriage is the best option for the country's stability, while others, including alliance partners, have strongly rejected the idea. Now, our South African correspondent, Bongani Sisiba, is on ground and will be joining us now to discuss this. Bongani, good afternoon. Good to have you on the news.
Good afternoon, Mazino, and also good afternoon to our viewers.
Good. So, Bongani, talk to us about this drop in popularity for the ANC and what it's going to cost them going forward. And if they were also to form an alliance with any other parties, how would this be an advantage to them or the disadvantages?
For now, Mazino, what we know is that the ANC, the NEC, is in a meeting in closed doors since morning, and they are discussing about this, who they are going to go into marriage with. That is the marriage of coalitions. So far, we don't know who they are going to pick and why they are going to pick that party and what benefit are they looking at. What we know is that yesterday the ANC said that they have had an engagement or rather engagements with different political parties but excluding MK, the Jacob Zuma party, which they say called but didn't respond to their call. Secretary General Fikile Mbalula this morning telling media that they are waiting for MK to respond to them because they are ready to go to coalition with any party because they are not doing this for their own interest, but they are doing it for the South Africans. We know that there are reports, or rather media going on around saying that if there is a coalition between ANC, it should be with Democratic Alliance. But where I'm standing now on my other side, outside the Beachwood Hotel, there is a protest, ANC members protesting outside the Beachwood Hotel. They do not want what the media is saying, or rather the business is saying that they want the coalition between ANC and DA. But joining me is one of the volunteers. Let's just hear why they are here. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Why are you protesting?
We are protesting against a coalition that has been suggested as the only option, a coalition with a Democratic Alliance. We are here to say there are many other options that would exclude a racist former apartheid collaborator and a party that has been in power, that has been in opposition to the ANC for the last 30 years, opposing every legislative mandate of the ANC that sought to transform the South African economy.
But is ANC, as the volunteers outside here, which part would you say that ANC should go into coalition with, and why?
We have all different options that we are considering as people outside here. So we don't have one option, but all of those options are excluding the DA. We are saying this because about 60% of the voting public voted for political parties with similar policies to the ANC. So that sends a very strong and clear message that people voted against policies that are represented by the Democratic Alliance. And we are here to remind the ANC, NEC that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, those are part of the volunteers, or rather ANC members that are outside the Beachwood Hotel where the NEC meeting is happening, and they are saying that they do not want a coalition with the DA because, according to them, going into a coalition with DA is taking them back to apartheid. But also there are alliances, ANC alliances, that is the Workers' Union. They are also having meetings inside there. But one that has come out is the COSATU saying that they do not want this coalition between ANC and Democratic Alliance. So we are waiting to hear the outcome of that meeting when it ends at around 6 p.m. The president of the country is in there, and also his deputy, and also other ANC members.
Well then, thank you very much, Bongani. We await 6 p.m., like you say, to see exactly what comes out of this conversation. Thank you very much. Welcome back. Russian President Vladimir Putin calls for Moscow to build up relations with the Taliban government as a delegation visits Russia for the St. Petersburg Economic Forum. The comments come at a press conference with foreign news agencies where Putin threatened to arm countries that would strike Western interests in response to their arming of Ukraine. Putin also spoke out about the decision not to invite Russia to the 80th anniversary of the Normandy landings.
Это тонкий, очень важный вопрос, но надо выстраивать отношения с правительством Талибана. И в целом у нас контакты есть. Я знаю, что и Афганистан это развивает. Будем двигаться дальше. Но надо же как-то налаживать отношения с соседней стороной. Тем более, что если вас только это интересует, я могу сказать, что об этом, как правило, вообще никто никогда не говорит. А если говорят, то, как правило, извращают реальные цифры. Но я могу вам сказать совершенно уверенно, что наши потери, особенно если это касается, к сожалению, невосполнимых потерь, так, они, конечно, в разы просто меньше, чем с украинской стороны. То Черчилль говорил в свое время, или Рузвельт, о вкладе Советского Союза, считая Россию, в общую победу над нацизмом. Ну, это очевидно, все знают. Только люди недобросовестные
Sports now. Nigeria Super Eagles are gearing up for a crucial World Cup qualifier against their African rivals, South Africa. This key encounter will take place on Friday, that's tomorrow the 7th of June, at the Godswin Akpabio International Stadium in Uyo, Nigeria. The Super Eagles are looking to pounce back after 2 opening draws and will be aiming for a win against Bafana Bafana. With new players joining the squad, the pressure is now on. Our correspondent Onyeye Oboro is live in Uyo as we speak to give us updates on exactly what's happening there. Onyeye, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Maxino.
Thank you very much. Now, Onyeye, please, can you describe to us exactly the atmosphere in Uyo? Is there a sense of excitement or anticipation from the fans about the upcoming match against South Africa?
Yes, there is a sense of excitement, anticipation. They're also crossing their fingers, hoping that Coach Finidi George can hand them another win at the Godswill Akpabio International Stadium. The early hours of this morning has been pouring, showers of blessing, of course. Bringing good tidings ahead of that crucial encounter for Nigeria against South Africa, Bafana Bafana. You can see me donning the orange color. This is the theme color for Akwa Ibom State. So you should call me Eno afterwards. But great atmosphere here. We are at the Uyo Township Stadium. So very interesting to see that a lot of them are anticipating a good outing for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. But a little update from the South African camp. In a conversation with the media officer from the Bafana Bafana, Titus Romy, he just confirmed to me that they are in Nigeria. It's a wet morning, as I did say earlier, and Bafana Bafana squad who were held in Port Harcourt, they had to sleep at the airport. Now, miscommunication between the South African Football Association and the Nigerian Airport Authority. Here, we headed over to the airport at hearing that they were in Nigeria. We headed to the Uyo airport, but at that time, as at 8, the airport was closed. So you should understand that that's the reason why they could not get a flight from Port Harcourt down to Uyo, so they had to sleep at the airport. Remember that this team had a delayed flight from their chartered flight all the way from South Africa, and now miscommunication has made them sleep over at the Port Harcourt airport. But right now they are in Uyo. A wet morning. They came in the early hours of this morning. That's around like 11 a.m. I beg your pardon, 11 a.m. Yes, of course. And they came in that wet weather. Struggled with their baggages and all, but they will have to train at 8 p.m. after the Super Eagles of Nigeria trains, as at 6 p.m. Today at the Godswill Akpabio International Stadium. Yes, for Coach Finidi George, he has got the complete squad. 23 players are now in camp. Maduka Okoye arrived camp as at 11 p.m. yesterday. So Coach Finidi has got his complete squad, but there are really questions around Maduka having to start for the Super Eagles of Nigeria after making it just a day and few hours before the crucial clash against South Africa.
Okay, so Onyeye, regarding the travel troubles that the South Africans are having, Bafana Bafana, is there any agitations regarding how it might affect the performance of the Bafana Bafana?
Yes, there are agitations online, of course, because the truth is they've got few fans here in Nigeria. Most fans here are patriotic Nigerians. So what we see online are agitations, gimmicks that Nigerians are playing gimmicks against the Bafana Bafana of South Africa. That's what we hear. But it's just miscommunication. The truth that they had their delayed flight all the way from South Africa and could not communicate with the Nigerian Airport Authority. Airport closes in Uyo here at 8 p.m. and they had to be held in Port Harcourt. They had no choice. The airport in Uyo, they couldn't get a flight down from Port Harcourt to Uyo, only if they make it by road, and that can really affect them. But they had to stay over at the airport in Port Harcourt and then make it down here this morning. They get only to train at 8 p.m. and hopefully they get to train again in the early hours in the morning. That's for game day. I'm just crossing my fingers that can happen. But they've only got 8 p.m. to train at this time. Agitations online, oh yes, that Nigerians are playing gimmicks against them, that we got a plan to, have an edge, the home advantage, and also play the game so that we can have an advantage in that encounter. But I tell you for a fact that that's not the situation. just miscommunication over there between the South African Football Association and Nigerian Airport Authority. But I did listen to the coach, Hugo Bruce, who said that they would not be coming for revenge. But very important for them is a win here in Uyo, and he'll be looking to grab that win at the Gospel Akpabio International Stadium. He understands that there are changes in the squad, there are changes in the technical staff, and he will not be taking chances. He will not underestimate the new hands that will be coaching the Super Eagles of Nigeria, and also the new players that have been invited.
Well, we're also looking to win. Thank you very much, Onye Eno Obara, for bringing us that little report. Thank you indeed. And that's all at this hour. Thank you very much for joining us. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories we brought you. Nigerian government has dismissed leaked fiscal policy proposal documents. 16 U.S. lawmakers have written Biden and demanded return of Binance boss from Nigeria. And we also told you that Sudan committee said up to 100 have been killed in village attack. Remember now, you can send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on the screen right now. And do follow us on social media, where we are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.